Settle into the place where you are resting now. Allow your body to find its own weight. There is nothing to correct, nothing to optimize. Feel the surface beneath you supporting your back, your shoulders, the back of your head. Let your jaw loosen slightly. Let your tongue rest. Take a slow breath in through your nose and release it without effort. Tonight, we enter the quiet and searching mind of Søren Kierkegaard. Not to analyze him, not to debate him, but to let his reflections soften the fear that sometimes visits you when the lights are off. Existential anxiety has a particular sound at night. It whispers questions that feel heavier in the dark. Am I wasting my life? Have I chosen wrongly? Is this the path I was meant to walk? Kierkegaard believed that anxiety is not a defect. It is the dizziness of freedom. He saw that human beings are not fixed creatures. We are possibility. And possibility can feel vast and frightening. During the day, you move through tasks and obligations. But at night, when movement stops, possibility returns. And with it, the unsettling awareness that your life is shaped by your choices. Kierkegaard would not tell you to eliminate this anxiety. He would say it reveals something essential. Anxiety appears because you are free, because you are capable of becoming. The fear of wasting your life is not proof that you are failing. It is proof that you care. Notice that gently. The very presence of this fear means you are awake to your own existence. Kierkegaard described the self as a relation between what you are now and what you could become. At night, that relation becomes more visible. You feel the tension between your present self and your imagined future. This tension can tighten the chest. It can quicken the mind. But what if, instead of fighting it, you simply observed it? You are lying here, breathing, aware. You are not required to resolve your entire life tonight. Kierkegaard spoke of stages of life. The aesthetic life, driven by pleasure and avoidance of boredom. The ethical life, shaped by commitment and responsibility. And the religious life, grounded in deep inward trust. These are not ladders you must climb perfectly. They are movements of the inner self. When you fear wasting your life, often it is because you sense you are drifting aesthetically. Distracted. Entertained. Avoiding commitment. But awareness of drift is already movement toward the ethical. You cannot waste your life unconsciously once you are aware of it. So tonight, instead of judging yourself, notice that you are in the tension of becoming. Kierkegaard would say, the self is not something given. It is something achieved. And achievement, in his sense, is inward. It is the alignment between who you are and what you choose. Feel your breath again. Inhale slowly. Exhale gently. The fear of wasting your life is loud because you imagine time as a narrowing corridor. But Kierkegaard invites you to think differently. He speaks of the present moment as decisive. Not decisive in a dramatic way, but decisive because it is the only place where you can relate to yourself truthfully. Right now, you are relating to yourself. You are listening. You are reflecting. This is not waste. This is inward work. Anxiety tells you that you must solve your entire future before you sleep. Kierkegaard tells you that the future is possibility, not demand. Possibility does not accuse you. It simply waits. The dizziness you feel comes from looking too far ahead. So gently bring your gaze inward. Not to criticize, but to understand. Who are you becoming? And more softly, what small act of sincerity would align you tomorrow? You do not need a 10-year plan. You need the courage of one honest choice. Kierkegaard called this the leap. Not a reckless leap, but a leap of commitment toward what you inwardly know. The leap is quiet. It is personal. And it cannot be performed in advance. It is taken when the moment comes. So tonight, there is no leap required. Only rest. Let your shoulders soften a little more. Let your breath settle into its own rhythm. You are not late in life. You are in life. And being in life means standing within possibility. Anxiety is the shadow cast by freedom. If you had no freedom, you would have no anxiety. You would simply follow instinct, like the wind follows pressure. But you are capable of choosing. That is a gift that sometimes feels like a burden. Kierkegaard did not deny the burden. He acknowledged it fully. He knew that to be human is to feel the weight of becoming oneself. Yet he also believed that despair is not in having anxiety. Despair is in refusing to become who you are. Notice the difference. Anxiety can be present without despair. Despair begins when you abandon your own inward truth. Right now, you are not abandoning it. You are listening to it. Feel the calm in that. The fear of wasting your life loses some of its sharpness when you understand it as a sign of depth. A shallow life does not worry about meaning. Only a reflective life asks these questions. And you are reflective. So breathe again. Slowly. Softly. You do not need to complete yourself tonight. You only need to remain willing to become. Kierkegaard would say that the self is built through commitment over time. Time is not your enemy. Time is the field in which you grow. You cannot grow all at once. Even inward growth unfolds quietly, like a seed beneath soil. Much of your becoming happens unseen. Just as your body restores itself during sleep, your inner life continues shaping itself through reflection, choice, and patience. If you feel behind, consider this. Behind whom? Existential anxiety often compares your private timeline to imagined external standards. But Kierkegaard insisted that the most important task is not comparison. It is inward truth. To stand before yourself honestly. And tonight, in the quiet, you are doing exactly that. Let that realization warm you slightly. You are not wasting your life by questioning it. You are engaging with it. The mind can now slow a little. There is nothing urgent to fix. Your freedom remains. Your possibility remains. Your capacity to choose remains. And choice is always renewed in the present. Stay here for a moment longer. Breathing. Listening. The night does not demand answers. It offers space. And within that space, you are allowed to simply be a self in progress. We will continue gently. Let your breathing become even quieter now. Not forced. just softer at the edges. As your body rests, the mind sometimes continues its quiet calculations. It revisits conversations. It replays decisions. It imagines alternate paths. Kierkegaard understood this inward restlessness. He believed that much of human anxiety comes from standing at the edge of possibility without choosing. When you fear wasting your life, it is often because you imagine all the lives you did not choose. The career you did not pursue. The sea you did not move to. The relationship that ended. The version of yourself that might have existed. But notice something gently. Every life requires the sacrifice of other lives. To choose one path is to let countless others remain unrealized. That is not failure. It is the structure of existence. Freedom always carries loss within it. Kierkegaard would say that anxiety appears because you are aware of this open field of possibility. You see that you could have been different. And yet, you are here. Lying here. Breathing steadily. The self is not built from imagined alternatives. It is built from actual commitments. You cannot live all possible lives. You can only live one, inwardly and sincerely. The mind may protest. What if I chose wrong? What if I am still choosing wrong? Kierkegaard did not promise certainty. He believed that certainty belongs to mathematics, not to human existence. To live is to move forward without absolute guarantees. And this uncertainty is not a flaw. It is the very condition that makes faith, courage, and commitment meaningful. Feel your chest rise slowly and fall. You do not need certainty to rest tonight. You only need to accept that uncertainty is natural. Anxiety often grows when you demand proof that your life is correct. But life is not solved like an equation. It is lived inwardly, moment by moment. Kierkegaard spoke about the individual standing alone before existence. Not isolated in despair, but responsible for becoming authentic. Authenticity does not mean perfection. It means alignment. Are you moving, even slowly, toward what feels inwardly true? That question is gentler than am I wasting my life? It allows room for growth. Perhaps you are not where you ultimately want to be. But are you drifting unconsciously? Or are you reflecting and adjusting? Reflection itself is movement. Tonight, you are not numbing yourself. You are not escaping. You are thinking carefully. That is not waste. Kierkegaard warned against losing oneself in distraction. The aesthetic life, he said, seeks constant stimulation to avoid confronting inward responsibility. But lying here, quietly facing your questions, is already a departure from distraction. You are not anesthetized. You are awake to your own existence. There is dignity in that. Let your shoulders sink a little deeper into the surface beneath you. The fear of wasting your life can tighten the muscles subtly. Release that tension now. If a thought arises, I should be further by now, notice it as a thought. Not a verdict. Not a sentence. Just a mental movement. Kierkegaard believed despair occurs when we refuse to be ourselves. But what does that mean? It means pretending to be someone we are not. Living according to borrowed expectations. Chasing standards that do not feel inwardly chosen. So perhaps the deeper question is not, am I wasting my life? But whose life am I trying to live? That question is quiet but powerful. You may have absorbed ideas about success from culture, family, or comparison. At night, those external voices can grow louder. But Kierkegaard would gently ask you to step back from the crowd. He believed truth is subjectivity, not in the sense of fantasy, but in the sense that what matters most must be inwardly appropriated. You must choose it for yourself. Borrowed purpose feels hollow. Chosen purpose feels grounding. If you feel anxious tonight, perhaps it is because you sense a gap between what you truly value and what you are currently prioritizing. That awareness is not condemnation. It is guidance. It points quietly toward adjustment. And adjustment does not require dramatic upheaval. Often it begins with small, steady changes. One honest conversation. One boundary. One reallocation of time. Kierkegaard did not demand that you transform overnight. He emphasized inward decision. Decision is subtle. It begins as a shift in orientation. You can decide tonight, silently, that tomorrow you will move 1 inch closer to alignment. Not a mile. An inch. Existence unfolds through increments. As you breathe slowly now, notice how each breath is small. Yet many small breaths sustain your entire body. In the same way, small inward choices sustain your becoming. The mind may still present images of alternate lives. Allow them to drift without attachment. They are possibilities, not obligations. You cannot live them all, and you do not need to. Your task is not to maximize experiences. It is to become inwardly whole. Kierkegaard spoke of the self as a synthesis of the finite and the infinite. The finite is your actual circumstances, your age, your job, your relationships. The infinite is your imagination, your capacity for possibility. Anxiety arises when the infinite overwhelms the finite. You imagine endless paths and measure your current reality against them. To calm existential anxiety, you gently return from the infinite to the finite. Right now, the finite is simple. You are lying down. You are breathing. You are safe in this moment. The infinite can rest for now. There will be time tomorrow to engage it again. For tonight, allow yourself to inhabit what is real and present. Kierkegaard would not ask you to abandon ambition or growth. He would simply remind you that becoming occurs through lived reality, not imagined perfection. So soften again. Let your mind feel slightly heavier, slightly slower. The fear of wasting your life is intense when you believe time is slipping uncontrollably. But time is not something you chase in the dark. It moves steadily, whether you tense or relax. And rest is not waste. Rest restores clarity. Clarity supports better choice. And better choice shapes a more authentic life. You are not falling behind by sleeping. You are preparing to live more deliberately. That understanding can ease the urgency. Notice how the breath has become quieter. Thoughts may still move, but perhaps they carry less sharpness. Let the words settle slowly now, like dust returning gently to the floor after a long day of movement. Your breathing has found a calmer rhythm. The body understands something the mind often forgets, that life does not have to be solved all at once. Kierkegaard spent much of his life observing how easily people escape themselves. Not intentionally, but quietly, gradually. A person can fill every hour with activity and still avoid the central question of existence. Not the question of productivity. Not the question of status. But the question of becoming a self. To Kierkegaard, the self was not something automatically given. It was something formed through inward honesty. And this honesty often begins at night, when the noise of the world fades and the individual is left alone with their own consciousness. You may recognize that moment. When the lights go out and the mind begins to wander through your life. Moments appear. Decisions appear. Regrets sometimes appear. This is not weakness. It is the mind attempting to orient itself. The anxiety you feel about wasting your life is often the mind's way of asking a deeper question. Am I living in a way that feels true to who I am meant to become? That question is not meant to punish you. It is meant to awaken you gently. Kierkegaard believed that despair is not simply sadness. It is the condition of living without awareness of oneself. Many people move through life guided only by habit or expectation. They follow paths laid out by others. They measure success according to external markers. And sometimes they never stop to ask whether those markers actually belong to them. But the moment you begin to question your direction, something important has already happened. You have stepped outside unconscious living. Awareness has entered the room. And awareness, even when uncomfortable, is the beginning of freedom. Let your shoulders relax again. You do not need to judge your entire life tonight. Simply noticing your inner questions is already meaningful. Kierkegaard often spoke about the crowd. He believed that the crowd allows people to hide from personal responsibility. When everyone moves in the same direction, it becomes easy to forget that life is ultimately lived individually. The crowd can tell you what success should look like. What milestones should occur by certain ages. What achievements should define your worth. But existence does not unfold according to identical timelines. Each person carries different circumstances, different temperaments, different callings. When you compare your path constantly with others, anxiety naturally increases. The mind begins to whisper. You should be further by now. You should have done more. You should have chosen differently. But Kierkegaard would gently remind you that comparison belongs to the crowd. Authenticity belongs to the individual. Your task is not to replicate another person's life. Your task is to inhabit your own. Notice how different that feels. The pressure to match others begins to loosen. Your life does not need to resemble anyone else's in order to be meaningful. Meaning arises from inward commitment. It arises when your actions slowly begin to reflect what you genuinely value. Even small reflections matter. One honest step toward what feels true carries more weight than many steps taken to impress others. The mind sometimes imagines that meaning must arrive in grand moments. A dramatic turning point. A single decision that resolves everything. But Kierkegaard understood that existence rarely unfolds that way. Meaning is built quietly. Through repeated choices. Through gradual alignment. Just as a tree grows ring by ring, Almost invisibly, a self develops through lived experience. You do not wake up one morning suddenly complete. You grow into yourself over time. And growth requires patience. The anxiety about wasting your life often comes from the belief that everything must already be settled. But human existence is not finished early. It unfolds continuously. Each stage of life reveals different responsibilities and insights. Even mistakes contribute to the shaping of the self. Kierkegaard never imagined a life free of error. Instead, he believed the individual must learn to face their own imperfections without fleeing from them. If you regret certain decisions, that regret can become instructive rather than destructive. Regret points toward values. It shows you what matters enough to hurt, and what matters can guide your future choices. Let that idea rest gently in your mind. Regret is not proof that your life is wasted. It is evidence that you care about living well. If you truly had no concern about your life's direction, there would be no anxiety at all. Only indifference. But indifference is not what you feel tonight. You feel the weight of possibility. And that weight, though uncomfortable, reveals something important. You are still engaged with your life. You are still thinking about who you might become. That engagement is a form of hope. Kierkegaard believed that despair closes the door to possibility. Hope, even quiet hope, keeps it open. You may not see the full path ahead. Most people never do. But you can continue to take thoughtful steps. One decision at a time. One adjustment at a time. Now notice the rhythm of your breathing again. It may be slower than before. The body gradually follows the tone of your thoughts. When the mind softens, the body follows. And when the body relaxes, the mind often becomes clearer. The fear of wasting your life does not need to dominate the night. It can simply be acknowledged as a question you carry. A question that will unfold gradually through living. You do not need to answer it completely tonight. You only need to remain open to becoming. Feel the surface beneath you supporting your body. The night remains quiet. And within that quiet, your life continues unfolding, patiently, step by step. Let the quiet deepen a little more now. There is something gentle about recognizing that your life does not demand a final verdict tonight. Kierkegaard often returned to the idea that becoming oneself is not a public performance. It is an inward task. And inward tasks unfold in silence. When you lie awake fearing that you are wasting your life, it may be because you imagine life as a measurable achievement. As something that can be totaled, compared, ranked. But Kierkegaard would ask you to consider a different measure. Not how impressive your life appears, but how honestly it is lived. Honesty, in his sense, means that your outer actions gradually align with your inner convictions. That alignment rarely happens instantly. It takes reflection. It takes courage. And sometimes it takes discomfort. Anxiety, then, becomes a signal. Not a signal that you are failing, but a signal that you are aware of the tension between who you are and who you wish to be. Tension is not always harmful. In fact, without tension, growth would not occur. A string on an instrument must be stretched slightly to create music. Too loose, and it produces no sound. Too tight, and it snaps. Existential anxiety is similar. A certain degree of tension awakens you. Too much, and it overwhelms you. Tonight, you are learning to hold it gently, not so tight that it harms you, not so loose that you ignore it. Kierkegaard spoke about the importance of choice. But choice, in his philosophy, is not about endless options. It is about commitment. Modern life often presents you with constant alternatives. You could change careers, move cities, reinvent yourself. The sheer number of possibilities can create paralysis. But Kierkegaard believed that the self is strengthened not by maximizing options, but by choosing sincerely. Once you choose something meaningful, you narrow the field of possibility, and in doing so, you become more defined. You cannot become someone without excluding other possibilities. And exclusion is not waste. It is focus. If tonight you are worried that you have not chosen the perfect path, consider this. There may be no perfect path. Only paths that become meaningful through commitment. Meaning grows where attention remains. If you continually doubt every direction, constantly scanning for a better alternative, anxiety will persist. But if you gently say, "For now, I will stand here," something settles. Standing somewhere does not mean you are trapped. It means you are present. And presence reduces the dizziness of infinite possibility. Notice how that feels. The mind may still wander to alternate versions of your life. Let those versions appear briefly, and then fade. They are ideas. They are not realities you are obligated to inhabit. Kierkegaard also wrote about faith. Not merely religious faith, but the deeper idea of trusting that your path, though uncertain, can still be lived meaningfully. Faith, for him, was not blind optimism. It was the courage to act without complete assurance. You may not know where your choices will lead, but you can still choose with sincerity. And sincerity is enough. You do not need a guarantee that your life will be extraordinary. You only need the willingness to live it deliberately. When you fear wasting your life, perhaps you are imagining that only grand achievements count. But Kierkegaard would suggest that inward integrity counts more. A quiet life lived honestly can carry profound meaning. A life that appears impressive but lacks inward alignment can feel empty. Which one matters more? The world may praise the second, but your inner self responds to the first. Feel your breathing again. Each inhale, each exhale. Your life is not a race against invisible competitors. It is a journey of becoming more authentically yourself. Even missteps contribute to that becoming. When you make a mistake, you learn something about your limits, your values, your strengths. Without mistakes, there would be no self-knowledge. So the fear that you have already wasted time may be softened. Time lived with awareness is rarely wasted. Even periods of confusion can deepen understanding. Kierkegaard did not view life as a straight line. He saw it as a series of inward confrontations. Moments where the individual stands alone and decides who to be. You have had such moments, and you will have more. They do not all occur dramatically. Sometimes they are quiet. A private decision to change direction slightly. To speak honestly. To stop pretending. Those quiet decisions shape the self more than public milestones. As you lie here, allow the idea of gradual shaping to calm you. You do not sculpt your entire identity in a single evening. You shape it gently over years. And tonight is simply one small part of that shaping. The anxiety you feel is not permanent. It rises. It falls. Like the breath. Like the rhythm of your heartbeat. It reminds you that you care. And caring is not a flaw. It is evidence that your life matters to you. Let your thoughts become a little slower now. You do not need to calculate your future. You do not need to re-examine every decision you have made. Instead, rest in the understanding that becoming is ongoing. You are not fixed. You are not finished. And you are not beyond renewal. Each day brings the opportunity to adjust slightly, to move closer to what feels true. That is enough for now. The night is steady. Your breathing is steady. And within this quiet space, your life continues unfolding, not perfectly, but sincerely. Let the pace slow even more now. There is no need to reach for the next idea quickly. Allow each thought to arrive gently and settle fully before the next one comes. Kierkegaard believed that much of human distress comes from trying to live outwardly before living inwardly. Outward success can be measured. Inward growth cannot. And because it cannot be measured easily, the mind often doubts it. You may wonder whether you are progressing at all. But inward development is subtle. It happens when you question honestly. When you admit uncertainty. When you choose not to numb yourself with distraction. These quiet acts rarely appear impressive. Yet they shape the foundation of your life. The fear of wasting your life often assumes that value must be visible. That if others cannot see your progress, perhaps it is not real. But Kierkegaard placed immense importance on the invisible life. The hidden thoughts. The private decisions. The unseen commitments. Those are the places where the self is formed. And you are working in those places now. Even this reflection, lying here in the dark, is part of that unseen labor. You are tending to your inner life. That is not waste. Consider how often anxiety arises when you try to rush your becoming. When you demand clarity before it has time to form. Clarity is not forced. It emerges when you allow questions to breathe. Kierkegaard understood that some questions remain open for long periods. You may not know your ultimate purpose tonight. You may not know the full shape of your future. But not knowing does not equal failing. It simply means you are still in motion. And motion does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like quiet reflection. Sometimes it looks like rest. Rest itself is not avoidance. Rest allows integration. Just as muscles rebuild during sleep, your understanding rebuilds when you stop pressing it. If you constantly demand answers, the mind becomes tense. But if you allow space, insights arrive naturally over time. Kierkegaard emphasized patience with oneself. Not complacency, but patience. The difference is subtle. Complacency ignores the inner call to growth. Patience acknowledges it and moves steadily rather than frantically. Frantic effort is often driven by fear. Steady movement is guided by intention. Which one feels closer to what you want? As you breathe quietly now, Imagine setting down urgency. You do not need to solve your life faster than it unfolds. Life has its own rhythm. The fear of wasting time assumes that time is slipping through your fingers uncontrollably. But much of time's value lies in how you inhabit it. 1 hour of sincere reflection may carry more weight than a week of distracted activity. Quality of presence matters. Kierkegaard would gently remind you that becoming is not a public race. It is an inward pilgrimage. Pilgrimages take time. They involve pauses. They involve wrong turns. They involve rest stops. None of those invalidate the journey. If you look back on your life and see periods where you felt lost, consider this possibility. Perhaps those were not wasted seasons. Perhaps they were seasons of preparation. Confusion can deepen wisdom. Uncertainty can refine values. Even disappointment can clarify what truly matters. You cannot know the full meaning of every chapter while you are inside it. Meaning often reveals itself later. So the pressure to interpret your entire life correctly tonight can soften. You are allowed not to know everything. You are allowed to grow slowly. Kierkegaard spoke of the individual standing alone before existence. That image can sound lonely, but it also carries dignity. To stand alone means you are responsible for shaping your life. Responsibility is not meant to crush you. It is meant to empower you quietly. You are not a passive object moved entirely by circumstance. You have influence, not over everything, but over your orientation. You can choose honesty over self-deception. You can choose courage over avoidance. You can choose small integrity over small compromise. These choices accumulate. They shape your character more than dramatic achievements. As the mind grows quieter, notice how the fear of wasting your life begins to feel less urgent. It may still be present, but it is softer. It is becoming a thoughtful companion rather than a loud critic. Perhaps it is simply reminding you to live deliberately. And living deliberately does not require perfection. It requires awareness. Awareness you already possess. You are not asleep in your own life. You are thinking about it. That alone shifts the trajectory. Let your body sink a little deeper now. The surface beneath you holds your weight without effort. You do not have to hold everything yourself. Some things unfold naturally when you allow them. Your task is not to control every outcome. Your task is to remain sincere. Sincerity in thought. Sincerity in action. Sincerity in rest. Even sleep, when approached without guilt, becomes part of sincere living. You rest so that you can wait clearer. You pause so that you can act more thoughtfully. Nothing about that is wasted. The night continues steadily. Your breath continues steadily. And your life, even in stillness, continues shaping itself through the quiet work of awareness. Stay here. Be gentle with yourself. Be patient with your becoming. There is time to grow. There is space to adjust. And you are already on the path, not because it is perfect, but because you are consciously walking it. Let the thoughts become even simpler now. You have considered possibility. You have considered choice. You have considered patience. Now allow these ideas to settle into something quieter. Kierkegaard understood that the deepest anxiety does not come from failure itself. It comes from the fear that your life might lack meaning. Meaning is not something you stumble upon accidentally. It is something you relate to inwardly. Two people can live similar lives outwardly. One feels fulfilled. The other feels empty. The difference is not always circumstance. It is relationship. How you relate to your work. How you relate to your commitments. How you relate to yourself. Existential anxiety often appears when that relationship feels unclear. When you sense a gap between your outer life and your inner values. That gap can feel heavy at night. But a gap is not a grave. It is space. And space allows movement. If you sense misalignment, that awareness itself is a form of guidance. You are not trapped in unconscious living. You are observing your own life. That observation is powerful. Kierkegaard wrote that to become oneself is the greatest task given to a human being. Not to become famous. Not to become admired. But to become oneself. And becoming oneself requires inward attention. You cannot outsource it. You cannot rush it. You must inhabit it gradually. The fear of wasting your life may be the mind's way of asking whether you are living from borrowed expectations. Perhaps you have followed certain paths because they were sensible, approved, or secure. And perhaps part of you wonders whether those paths reflect your deeper convictions. That wondering is not betrayal. It is inquiry. Inquiry can lead to refinement. Refinement does not require tearing down your entire life. Sometimes it means adjusting how you engage with what you already have. Bringing more honesty into it. More intention. You can remain where you are and still deepen the meaning of it. Or you can, over time, change direction thoughtfully. Both are possible. Anxiety decreases when you remember that change is gradual. Nothing requires immediate upheaval. Tonight is not a courtroom where your life is judged. It is a quiet room where it is examined gently. Let your breath move slowly again. Inhale. Exhale. Kierkegaard emphasized that despair arises when a person refuses to be themselves. But what does refusal look like? Sometimes it looks like constant distraction. Sometimes it looks like comparison. Sometimes it looks like numbing uncomfortable questions. Yet you are not refusing. You are listening. You are allowing the questions to exist without shutting them down. That willingness is the opposite of despair. You are participating in your own becoming. The mind may still whisper, "What if it's too late?" But consider this calmly. As long as you are conscious, as long as you are able to reflect and choose, it is not too late. Existence is not measured only by early achievements. Some insights arrive later. Some clarity forms slowly. The timeline of growth is not uniform. Kierkegaard himself struggled with doubt, conflict, and hesitation. He did not present life as a clean ascent. He presented it as a series of inward confrontations. You will have more opportunities to choose. You will have more chances to refine your direction. The fear that everything is already fixed is rarely accurate. Life remains fluid longer than you think. As you rest here, allow that fluidity to comfort you. You are not locked into one irreversible narrative. You are part of an unfolding story. And stories develop over chapters. Some chapters feel uncertain. Some feel steady. All contribute to the whole. The anxiety about wasting your life may soften when you shift from judging the entire book to simply writing the next page carefully. You do not need to rewrite the beginning tonight. You do not need to predict the ending. You only need to remain attentive to the present page. And right now, this page is quiet. It contains breathing, stillness, reflection. This is not wasted time. It is integration. Integration prepares you for wiser action later. Sleep itself becomes part of becoming. Because a rested mind chooses more clearly. A calm nervous system responds more thoughtfully. You are not falling behind by closing your eyes. You are preparing your inner life to continue shaping itself tomorrow. The mind can begin to grow heavier now. Thoughts need not stretch as far. Possibility can rest beside you rather than towering above you. You are allowed to be unfinished. You are allowed to be in process. Kierkegaard would not demand that you eliminate anxiety entirely. He would encourage you to live with it courageously, to see it as the shadow of freedom. And freedom remains with you. Even now. Especially now. So let the breath slow again. Let the body sink more fully into the surface that holds you. You are not wasting your life by reflecting on it. You are honoring it. You are not behind in becoming. You are becoming. And becoming takes time. Rest inside that understanding. Tomorrow will come when it comes. For now, remain gently aware. Remain sincere. And allow the quiet work of inward growth to continue even as sleep begins to approach. Let the words become lighter now. You have explored anxiety as possibility. You have examined choice and commitment. You have softened comparison and urgency. Now allow everything to settle into something simpler. Kierkegaard believed that to become oneself is not to eliminate anxiety, but to relate to it properly. Anxiety does not need to rule you. It only needs to be understood. When you fear wasting your life, you are imagining a future where meaning never arrives. But meaning is not something waiting far ahead. It grows wherever sincerity is present. If tomorrow you act with even a little more honesty than yesterday, that is meaning. If you speak one truthful sentence that you might have avoided before, that is meaning. If you align one small habit with what you truly value, that is meaning. Meaning is rarely dramatic. It accumulates quietly. And quiet accumulation rarely feels impressive in the moment. But over time, it shapes the entire direction of a life. Kierkegaard would say that the individual becomes real not through endless reflection alone, but through decision. Yet decision does not require attention right now. Tonight is not for deciding everything. Tonight is for releasing the demand to decide everything. You will choose again when the moment arrives. For now, you are allowed to rest in possibility without resolving it. The mind may still reach for reassurance. Will I fulfill my potential? Will I regret this path? No one can answer those questions completely in advance. But you can answer a simpler one. Will I remain willing to live honestly? That question is enough. If you remain willing, your path can adjust. If you remain willing, growth continues. If you remain willing, despair does not take root. Kierkegaard saw despair as a refusal to become oneself. But willingness keeps becoming alive. And you are willing. You are here, reflecting instead of escaping. That alone is quiet courage. Let your breath deepen slightly. And soften again. The body understands rest more easily than the mind does. The body knows how to release. Allow it to teach the mind now. The fear of wasting your life often comes from imagining a single correct version of yourself. As if somewhere there exists a perfect blueprint you must discover and execute flawlessly. But Kierkegaard did not believe in a mechanical blueprint. He believed in inward truth. In choosing what feels ethically and authentically aligned, even without full clarity. There is no perfect version waiting to judge you. There is only the version you are shaping through choices over time. And shaping takes repetition. Repetition takes patience. Patience takes trust. Trust grows slowly. You do not need absolute confidence in your entire future. You only need enough trust to take the next honest step when morning comes. Morning will arrive without your effort. Time moves steadily whether you worry or not. So worrying does not create more time. It only drains the present. You are allowed to give this present moment back to stillness. Let the thoughts grow less detailed now. Less analytical. More spacious. Kierkegaard spoke of the leap, the inward commitment that cannot be justified fully by reason. But that leap is not required in the dark of night. It will arise naturally when your heart recognizes its moment. Until then, you live faithfully in small acts. Small integrity. Small courage. Small sincerity. These are not small in consequence. They accumulate quietly into character. And character shapes destiny more reliably than frantic planning. Your destiny is not written in a single decision. It unfolds in thousands of small alignments. Tonight, alignment means rest. Rest is not avoidance. Rest is preparation. Preparation for clearer thought. For calmer action. For more deliberate becoming. The mind can slow even further now. The words themselves can begin to thin. You do not need complex explanations anymore. You are not wasting your life by being unfinished. You are not wasting your life by needing time. You are not wasting your life by questioning. You waste your life only if you stop caring entirely. And you have not stopped caring. Caring is still here. Gently present. That is enough. Let your breath move softly in. And softly out. Kierkegaard believed that the self becomes stable when it rests transparently before its own conscience. You are doing that now. Without performance. Without comparison. Just you and your inward awareness. There is dignity in this quiet encounter. There is depth in this stillness. The future does not need to be solved. It will meet you step by step. Your task is simple. Remain sincere. Remain willing. Remain attentive to your inward truth. Everything else unfolds gradually. Allow your thoughts to drift now like distant shapes losing detail. You do need to analyze them. You can let them pass. Your life is not a race to be completed. It is a process of becoming lived honestly over time. And becoming takes time. So rest. Rest inside your freedom. Rest inside your unfinishedness. Rest inside the simple commitment to continue becoming yourself. That is enough for tonight. You remain a self in relation to possibility. You remain capable of choice. You remain willing to become. And that willingness is the quiet foundation of a life not wasted. Let everything soften again. The thoughts have traveled far tonight. They have examined possibility, choice, regret, comparison, patience. Now they can begin to return home. Kierkegaard believed that the deepest form of stability is not certainty about the future, but reconciliation with oneself in the present. Reconciliation does not mean that every question is answered. It means that you are no longer fighting your own existence. When you fear wasting your life, there is often a hidden struggle underneath. A struggle between who you think you should be and who you actually are. That struggle creates tension. But tension eases when you allow yourself to be a work in progress. You do not need to reject ambition. You do not need to silence growth. You simply need to accept that growth unfolds through time. Time is not your enemy. Time is the medium through which becoming occurs. Kierkegaard saw life as a task, but not a frantic one. A steady one. The task is to choose yourself honestly, again and again. Not perfectly. Not flawlessly. But sincerely. Sincerity does not require dramatic reinvention. It requires small consistency. When tomorrow comes, you will have another opportunity to act in alignment with what you value. You do not need to rehearse that tomorrow tonight. You can trust that it will arrive. And when it does, you will meet it with the awareness you are cultivating now. The fear of wasting your life grows loudest when you imagine that your worth depends on outcomes. But Kierkegaard would gently redirect your attention. Worth is not measured only by what you produce. It is measured by how you relate to what you produce. By whether your actions emerge from inward conviction. Even simple tasks, when done with sincerity, carry meaning. Even ordinary days, when lived honestly, contribute to becoming. You are not required to live an extraordinary life in order to live a meaningful one. You are required only to live your life consciously. And consciousness is present here. Notice how your body feels now. Heavier perhaps. Warmer. More settled. The mind can follow the body downward into quiet. There is no new concept to introduce. Only simplification. You are free. Freedom creates possibility. Possibility creates anxiety. But anxiety, when accepted, becomes guidance. It reminds you that your life matters. It reminds you that you are capable of choosing. Choosing is not about eliminating every alternative. It is about standing somewhere with intention. You may stand imperfectly. You may adjust later. That is allowed. Nothing in Kierkegaard's thought demands rigid perfection. It asks only for inward honesty. If you are honest with yourself, even about your uncertainty, you are not wasting your life. Uncertainty admitted is healthier than certainty borrowed. Comparison fades now. Urgency fades now. You are not late. You are alive. And being alive means being unfinished. The mind can rest inside that truth. Unfinished does not mean defective. It means developing. A seed is unfinished. A tree in winter is unfinished. A person in reflection is unfinished. Yet all are in process. Process is not failure. It is life. Let the breath grow even quieter. You do not need to chase meaning. You cultivate it through sincerity. You do not need to secure the future. You meet it through presence. Kierkegaard's central insight returns gently now. The self becomes itself by relating to itself honestly before existence. You are doing that. Without performance. Without witnesses. Just you. And that is enough. If anxiety stirs again, you can recognize it differently. Not as an accusation, but as a reminder that you are free. Freedom is not a burden when held gently. It is an opportunity renewed each morning. Tonight, you are not required to exercise it. You are allowed to rest inside it. Let the mind slow further. Let words thin out. You are not wasting your life by resting. You are preparing to live it with greater clarity. You are not behind in becoming. Becoming does not operate on comparison. It unfolds uniquely. So breathe in softly and release slowly. You remain capable of choosing. You remain capable of aligning. You remain capable of becoming yourself. That is enough. Rest now in this simple commitment. To continue becoming yourself honestly, one small choice at a time. Nothing more is required tonight. Let the pace slow even more. There is nothing left to analyze. Only space. Kierkegaard wrote that life can only be understood backward, but it must be lived forward. Notice the gentleness in that idea. Understanding is not a prerequisite for living. Clarity often comes after movement, not before it. So if you ever felt you needed complete certainty before acting, you can release that demand now. Life is not a puzzle you must solve tonight. It is a path you walk gradually. And walking does not require tension in the shoulders. Let them soften. The future is not pressing on you in this moment. It is quiet. It is waiting patiently. You are allowed to meet it tomorrow. Right now, you are simply breathing. There is dignity in something so simple. The fear of wasting time dissolves when you realize that presence itself is not waste. Presence is participation. Even stillness is a form of participation in existence. You are here. Aware. Alive. That is already engagement with life. Kierkegaard often returned to the idea of the single individual. Not the crowd. Not comparison. Not reputation. Just the individual standing honestly before existence. Tonight, that individual is you. Not your achievements. Not your projections. Just you. And that is enough. You do not need applause to validate your becoming. You do not need urgency to justify your progress. Progress can be quiet. Growth can be invisible. Roots grow in darkness. So do insights. So does resilience. Let the breath slow again. Inhale and exhale longer than before. If a thought about tomorrow appears, you can acknowledge it softly. Then let it drift. Tomorrow will receive your energy when it arrives. Right now, your only responsibility is rest. Rest is not avoidance. Rest is restoration. A mind that rests chooses more clearly. A body that rests moves more steadily. A person who rests lives more deliberately. Nothing about tonight is wasted. Nothing about stillness is lost. You are not falling behind while you sleep. You are integrating. The mind reorganizes gently when given permission. Give it that permission. The pressure to maximize every moment begins to fade. Existence is not a race. It is an unfolding. And unfolding takes time. There is no shortcut to becoming yourself. There is only sincerity repeated over days, months, years. That repetition does not need to be dramatic. Small, honest actions accumulate quietly. The world rarely sees the foundation, but the foundation determines stability. You are building yours. Slowly. Intentionally. Even now. Notice how your body feels heavier against the surface beneath you. Supported. Held. Gravity doing its quiet work. You do not need to hold yourself up tonight. Let the surface hold you. Let the breath guide you downward. The mind may begin to blur the edges of thought. That is natural. Allow it. There is no final conclusion needed. Only a gentle recognition. You are allowed to move at your own pace. You are allowed to become in your own way. You are allowed to rest without guilt. The night is not judging you. Existence is not counting your unfinished tasks. In this quiet space, you are simply a living being. And living beings require sleep. So let the thoughts become softer. Let the sentences become fewer. You are not late. You are not failing. You are becoming. And becoming continues even as you drift. So breathe in once more, slowly. And release. Let the edges blur. Let the mind dim gently. You will wake when it is time. And when you do, you will continue. For now, rest. Let everything settle even deeper now. There is nothing left to strive for in this moment. Kierkegaard spoke of a quiet inwardness, a space where the individual stands alone, not in isolation, but in authenticity. That inward space is calm. It does not rush. It does not compare. It does not perform. It simply is. And you can rest there now. The world outside continues in its movement. But you do not need to participate in that movement tonight. You are allowed to step out of urgency. To step out of productivity. To step out of evaluation. Existence does not demand proof from you in this hour. It invites surrender. The fear of not doing enough begins to fade when you realize that being precedes doing. You are being first. Doing flows from that later. So let yourself be. Notice the quiet rhythm of your breath. There is wisdom in that rhythm. It has continued without your control. It has sustained you without effort. Trust that same intelligence to guide tomorrow. You do not need to orchestrate everything. You participate, yes, but you do not control the entirety of becoming. There is relief in that. Kierkegaard understood that anxiety arises from possibility. But possibility also means hope. Hope does not need to be loud. It can be subtle. It can rest quietly in the background of your awareness. You do not need to chase it. It will be there when you wake. Right now, the mind can grow simpler. Thoughts slow. Words soften. Images blur. If any lingering question tries to pull you back into analysis, you can respond gently. Not now. Tomorrow is the place for that. Tonight is for restoration. Even the most reflective mind requires stillness. Even the most driven heart requires pause. Pause is not weakness. It is integration. The self does not become stronger by constant tension. It becomes clearer through rest. Let clarity wait until morning. Let understanding arrive in its own time. You are safe in this quiet. Supported. Held by the surface beneath you. Held by gravity. Held by the steady rhythm of breath. There is nothing to prove here. Nothing to defend. Nothing to optimize. Just softness. Just warmth. Just quiet continuation of life. You are not wasting time by sleeping. You are honoring the limits of your body and mind. Limits are not flaws. They are structure. Structure allows growth. And growth happens best when cycles are respected. Wakefulness. Action. Reflection. Rest. You are in the rest phase now. And that is exactly where you are meant to be. Let the muscles in your face relax. Let the jaw loosen. Let the tongue rest. Let the eyelids grow heavier. Heavier still. The mind does not need to finish every sentence. It can leave thoughts incomplete. Incomplete thoughts dissolve naturally. There is comfort in not finishing everything. Life itself remains unfinished. And that is not a threat. It is an invitation. An invitation to continue tomorrow. Not tonight. Tonight, you drift. Slowly. Gently. Nothing urgent remains. Nothing pressing. Only quiet existence. And in this quiet, you are enough. Rest now. Let sleep take the final steps for you. You have done what you needed to do. Let go. Let the silence widen. There is a point where reflection becomes unnecessary. You have already gone far enough tonight. Kierkegaard described despair not as dramatic suffering, but as a subtle misalignment, a self that does not want to be itself. Notice how gently that shifts when you allow yourself to simply be. No improvement plan. No comparison chart. No imaginary audience. Just existence. Aligned with itself. The mind may still flicker with small fragments of thought. That is natural. You do not need to extinguish them. Let them pass like distant lights seen from a train window at night. Present for a moment. Then gone. You are not required to hold on to them. You are not required to solve them. The day is finished. And with it, today's decisions. There is peace and closure. You showed up in the ways you could. You carried what you were able. You learned what you noticed. That is enough. Kierkegaard believed that becoming oneself is not about dramatic leaps every day. It is about inward honesty sustained over time. And honesty includes recognizing fatigue. You are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to release effort. Effort belongs to daylight. Night belongs to restoration. Feel the weight of your body more fully now, as if it is sinking slightly deeper into the surface beneath you. Supported from below. Protected from above. Nothing is required from you in this position. The world can continue without your supervision for a few hours. It has done so before. It will do so again. Your role now is simple. Breathe. Inhale softly. Exhale slowly. Longer than the inhale. Let the exhale carry away the last thin threads of tension. If a thought returns about the future, you can meet it with one quiet sentence. I will meet you tomorrow. And then let it fade. You do not need to rehearse conversations. You do not need to forecast outcomes. You do not need to optimize strategies. The mind can power down. Like lights dimming one by one in a quiet house. Room after room grows darker. Calmer. Still. There is a softness in accepting that you are unfinished. Unfinished does not mean behind. It means alive. Alive things grow gradually. And growth includes rest cycles. The body understands this instinctively. Trust it. Kierkegaard would remind you that the self is a relation that relates to itself. Right now, that relation can be gentle, kind, unpressured. You are not in competition with anyone in this room. You are not performing for anyone in this darkness. You are simply a human being lying down at the end of a day. That is enough identity for tonight. Notice how your breathing has changed. Perhaps slower. Perhaps deeper. Let it continue without interference. You do not need to guide it anymore. Let gravity do its quiet work. Let warmth spread through your limbs. Let thoughts become heavier, like pages of a book closing slowly. You do not need to read the final chapter tonight. Sleep will hold your place. Tomorrow will open naturally. There is trust in that rhythm. You are part of that rhythm. Nothing is wasted in honest rest. Nothing is lost in surrender. The becoming continues even while you sleep. So allow the edges of awareness to soften. Allow the background to grow dim. Let the last fragments of language dissolve into silence. There is nothing left to consider. Nothing left to correct. Only quiet. Only breath. Only gentle drifting. You can let go now. Sleep is already close. And you are ready. Let this be the final descent. There is nowhere left to travel tonight. Kierkegaard once wrote in The Sickness unto Death that the deepest peace comes when the self rests transparently in the power that established it. You do not need to analyze that idea. Just feel its softness. To rest. Transparently. Without resistance. Without performance. You are not constructing yourself in this moment. You are not improving yourself. You are resting as yourself. That is enough. The questions about purpose have grown quiet. The urgency about time has faded. Even ambition can sleep. There will be daylight again. There will be choices again. There will be effort again. But none of that belongs to this hour. This hour belongs to surrender. Feel how the body has become heavier than the thoughts. That is a good sign. Let the thoughts follow. Let them sink. If any last fragment of self-critique appears, meet it gently. Not tonight. Tonight is for restoration. Kierkegaard believed that the crowd distracts us from ourselves. But in the stillness of night, there is no crowd. No noise. No comparison. Only the single individual at rest. And that individual is enough. You have carried your responsibilities for today. You have reflected. You have considered. You have breathed. Nothing remains undone in this moment that must be handled now. Sleep is not escape. It is trust. Trust that life continues. Trust that tomorrow will meet you where you are. Trust that becoming does not pause when consciousness fades. You are allowed to close your eyes fully now. Let the breath be automatic. Let the muscles loosen completely. Let the jaw soften. Let the hands grow warm and still. There is nothing to grip. Nothing to hold. Nothing to solve. The mind can release its final watch. Imagine placing all remaining thoughts into a small container. Setting it gently beside you. You can pick it up in the morning. It will wait. But you do not need it now. Now there is only darkness. Warmth. Breath. A quiet continuation of existence. You are not wasting your life by sleeping. You are participating in its rhythm. You are not behind. You are becoming. And becoming continues without effort in the night. The edges fade. The sentences shorten. The spaces grow wider. Soon even these words are unnecessary. So let this be the last clear thought. You are allowed to rest. Completely. Deeply. Without guilt. Without urgency. Without fear. Sleep now. And let tomorrow arrive on its own.